Hello friends, I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett here in the King 5 newsroom, and we are in first alert today for a reason that's a little bit different than the reason that we normally are. We're not tracking any kind of a storm across the region. What we are tracking is heat that is abnormally high for this time of year, running about 15 to 20 degrees above average. Now, we broke records across the region yesterday. We'll talk about that. We're still hot on. We'll be through about 10 o'clock tonight. In fact, a heat advisory remains in place, but there is relief on the way. It's going to be a little slow to get here, but by this time next week, we should be back down to average again, which, by the way, is about 70 degrees. We're running well above that. So let's take a look at our graphics here. Our temperatures for today, which is Monday, will be in the 80s across most of the region. So 83 in Seattle, 78 in Everett, 87 in Bremerton, and then more 90s down towards Shelton, Chehalis, Puyallup. Out along the coast, some relief there, 65s in Quileute and Hoquiam, but off towards the east, 102 in Wenatchee, and it's tough to see there with that banner, but it's also going to be in the triple digits off towards Yakima. Forecasted high temperatures across the region are scorching today. Again, a lot of places, especially off towards Idaho, Montana, are going to be in the 90s, so we'll find 92 in Missoula, 91 in Kalispell, and take a look at that. Portland and Eugene both hitting 95, Medford at 101, and some upper 80s and lower 90s off towards Montana. Here's your headline. So again, hot temperatures today. I think we've kind of driven that point home. But here's what we'll see through midweek. Decreasing temperatures, but still warm, running about 5 to 10 degrees above average, and then cooling back to normal from Thursday onward. And of course, we've established that normal is about 70 degrees. As you take a look at your 7-day forecast, you can see that, yeah, we're going to run warm through Wednesday, and then finally some welcome relief starting Thursday onward and kind of hovering near that average of 70. What you notice though, no meaningful precipitation on the horizon, but that could change next week. We'll talk about that in a moment. Weather alerts, lots of colors on the map. So let's start with Western Washington. The footprint is pretty much the entire Puget Sound region, the entire I-5 corridor, just one exception being up towards Skagit County along the coast there and off towards the San Juans, but otherwise all the way down to the Oregon state line. That heat advisory remains in place through 10 p.m. tonight, and as we saw a moment ago, temperatures in the 80s and 90s. Taking a look across the rest of the state, lots of colors there. Obviously that orange is a heat advisory across the northeastern portion of the state, but a couple of places actually have extreme heat warnings. So Adams, Chelan, Douglas, and Grant counties will have those in place until Tuesday, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. as some of those temperatures still in the 90s, and as we saw earlier, some triple digits there. Now, as you may imagine, along with the hot temperatures comes low humidity, so everything that you see in that fuchsia is a fire weather warning. So nothing that's a red flag warning yet, but it's very early in the season, and despite that, we still have some very dry conditions out there. Relative humidity getting down into the teens in some spots, and as those winds start to pick up around 30 miles an hour, fire could be concerned. So if you see anything, make sure that you're calling that in immediately, and please be very careful out there. Tuesday until 8 p.m. is when that fire weather warning's in effect. Forecasted high temperatures across the region tomorrow back off slightly, so what you notice is no more triple digits, but barely. 99 in Yakima tomorrow, 98 in Medford. Meanwhile, we'll see some upper 80s towards Portland and Eugene, and then in Seattle proper, looks like we'll dial that back to about 70, 73 in Vancouver, Canada tomorrow. High temperatures locally, again, becoming a little more comfortable, but still running about 5 to 10 degrees above average. So 84 in Puyallup, 81 in Olympia, 98 in Wenatchee. We'll get it back down into double digits, but again, barely. 94 in Leavenworth, 76 in White Pass. So just a quick reminder, that is, you know, as we saw over the weekend, the temptation to get close to cold water is extremely high. But a lot of our rivers, lakes, and streams are still cold and fast moving, especially the rivers. So folks in National Weather Service and NOAA have just been asking us to get the messaging out that even experienced swimmers can quickly lose muscle control. And one of the things that we've learned recently is that if you hear somebody gasping, if it sounds like somebody is struggling to get air, that is a clear sign that they're experiencing cold water shock. So please be very very careful. And if you're on any kind of watercraft, including a stand-up paddleboard, wear your life jacket. It makes a huge difference and it can save a life, including yours. So just remember that cold water shock is definitely something to be cognizant of this time of year. Looking at the big picture, this is the upper air weather pattern. It's the European model is kind of a mid-range forecast model that we use to look at troughs and ridges. Now, as you can see, the ridge of high pressure is huge up and down the coast, but starting on Wednesday, see that little dot that's kind of between Canada and Alaska there? That's an area of low pressure, and what it's going to do is send a trough our way that will slowly start to cool us. So you notice that temperatures in the 7-day forecast start to back off around midweek, and as that trough starts to expand across the region, nothing dramatic. We're not expecting a storm, we're not expecting any rain, but what we are expecting is more cloud cover and temperatures that'll be a little more influenced from the north and less from the south. So we'll get things back to normal and keep them that way through the weekend. Speaking of which, the long-term forecast model, again, it's probably about 7 to 10 days out, does show that low pressure possibly sliding down over top of the Pacific Northwest and possibly reintroducing some rain into our forecast next Tuesday. So it's going to take about a week or so, but things could normalize a bit, and if we can get some more rain, that would be fantastic. Overnight temperatures tonight, they're still running warm, so yeah, if you had trouble finding relief last night, that may be a bit of an issue again tonight. But again, as we saw a minute ago, and we'll just see again here, 7-day forecast shows us starting to back off and seeing those temperatures getting back closer to average, especially starting Thursday onward. One more thing I wanted to tell you about here is that the heat comes with the drought status being upgraded across western Washington, which is kind of alarming. You think about it, we had a La Nina winter, which is supposed to be abundant for the Pacific Northwest. We were supposed to get lots of rain and lots of snow, and we did at the beginning of the season, but then spring kind of tapered off in a strange kind of way. So my colleague meteorologist Leah Pizzetti has more on the current drought conditions and what's expected this summer.
The sunshine over our area tonight is a welcome sight for a lot of people, but it's another hit for the worsening drought status in western Washington.
Meteorologist Leah Pizzetti with our Environment Northwest team walks us through the latest report just out today.
It was already bad, and this update confirms that it's worsening. Take a look at this. This was the drought report released by the state in April, and this is the newest one released today. You can see a good portion of the state is now orange. All of those areas are now under a drought declaration. It's not even summer yet, and western Washington is already feeling the burn.
We had a slim chance for spring weather to bring more rain. Unfortunately, we didn't get what we needed. So here we are.
The State Department of Ecology is now increasing the drought advisory to a drought declaration. Parts of nearly half of the counties across the state are under the new emergency order, including Pierce, King, Snohomish, Skagit, and Whatcom.
We've declared drought in 6 of the past 10 years. Low water supplies are becoming routine in Washington, and that includes on the wetter west side of our state.
Scientists say above average temperatures are melting the snowpack about a month earlier than normal.
We're seeing only 21% of normal snowpack in the eastern side of the Central Cascades and 12% of normal for the western side.
Climatologists say this is bad news heading into wildfire season.
The likelihood of fire spread is a bit higher with the dry conditions we've seen.
They all agree this is unfortunately the new normal in the Pacific Northwest.
Conditions this year are what we can expect nearly every other year from now on.
The biggest thing this declaration is going to do is open up more funds and resources for county and city leaders to be able to plan ahead and prepare for a potential lack of water by the end of summer. For Environment Northwest, I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti.
Washington State Park says the number of registered voters has gone up every year, really spiked over the pandemic and has stayed up since then. But it's not just boaters. Paddle sports have gotten tremendously popular, and this weekend they'll be on display.
The clouds have officially parted.
Did you ever think about living on a houseboat?
The Emerald City is thawing out.
I mean, it is the most glorious place in the summers, having lived in multiple places. You know, and a day like this makes it seem worth it. Now ask us in January, but today it seems worth it.
Temperatures flirting with the 90s this weekend means a yearly rush to the water. People like me dragging the inflatable stand-up paddleboard out of storage and doing my best to pump it up.
We're almost there.
But before you go take a swim, a reminder of what you're getting yourself into.
If you're out on a kayak, a paddleboard, a canoe, you're a boater too, and you're responsible for knowing and following, boating safety laws as those apply to you as well.
Did you know that a whistle and a life jacket are required on board a paddleboard? Both could come in handy should you go overboard. Keep in mind, the water will be some 30 degrees cooler.
And yes, it takes your breath away that first moment, and it's refreshing, but it's sort of a jolt.
But you wouldn't want to be far away from needing to swim in, for example, even me. And I'm used to the water. I'm comfortable in the water.
While they watch comfortably from shore, I decided to find out for myself.
It's time to earn my paycheck, show you how people get into trouble. It's situations like this. It's hot out. I've worked up a sweat. Time to cool off. Okay, so it's like 70 degrees out. You'd think it wouldn't be that cold. It is freezing. I'm not doing that again, Perry.
Uncomfortable at best, dangerous at its worst. According to Washington State Parks, half of the state's water fatalities involve some form of paddle sport. Info that's not intended to discourage you from hitting the water, just to serve as a reminder, a reality check.
It is really the most beautiful place in the world when the sun comes out.
All right, we need to find ways to cool off in these temperatures, don't we? I've got a pretty ingenious way of making a portable air conditioner for less than $15. It may just be one trip to the store, too. Check this out.
You really only need 3 things. Find a cooler, maybe it's a styrofoam cooler just laying around. I found this compostable one for $10, which was a good find. You need 2 dryer vents. I got these at a hardware store for $2 a piece. And you'll need a small fan. Use one that you already have, or if you can find one, they're not that expensive. Now grab your cooler and trace a line to cut a hole for a dryer vent on the side. Remember to always slice away from your body, and once you've got that hole cut, fit a dryer vent inside. Now do the same thing for the other side of the cooler. Next up is the fan. Time to cut a hole for that on top.
And you want to make sure that you're cutting this hole for the fan just a little bit smaller than the actual size of the fan itself so that it doesn't fall through into the cooler. Now, before you put on the lid in the fan, you've got to make the inside of the cooler cold, right? I just grabbed whatever ice pack I could find, stuff it inside your cooler. You could even use frozen food, make sure that doesn't go to waste. You've got to make it cold. Now, time to put on the fan.
The air should flow out of the dryer vents.
It's actually really cold, and it can get colder depending on how much ice or ice packs you put in your cooler. Obviously, the fan will work for some breeze, but when you need to cool down with these really hot temperatures, you might want to try this. Jake Wittenberg, King 5 News.